Page, a pitcher, once said, "Don't go to college unless to get knowledge." In today's colleges, some athletes are granted scholarships to higher division schools to perform on their sports teams. But some colleges and other members of society feel that on top of getting scholarships that they should be paid a salary for performing their sport. College athletes should not be paid. I come across this topic because I have played sports and have watched sports my entire life. I have also researched this topic previously in other subjects. My audience should find this topic relevant to them due to the fact that sports is a huge part of our society today. And we watch it pretty much. I mean, if you looked at the drafts, the numbers were up this past year. Just from this past draft, people are watching more sports. And this is more relevant to people than most people think. And most cities are located with big name colleges. For example, Michigan, like Ann Arbor, Michigan State, or even us in Madison with UW-Madison. And they attract athletes for paying them to be playing for them. And lastly, college students, they should care because colleges could potentially lose money and have to cut sports programs. College athletes should not be paid because most college athletes attend more private schools and receiving scholarships that pay for their education. Also, athletes should be going to college to receive an education first and foremost, rather than focusing on all sports. Lastly, college athletes should not get paid because higher division schools can bribe students to attend their school, and sports teams that bring in revenue are the only sports that could afford to pay their athletes. Every division presents some type of financial award for agreeing to play for their sports team. Division I colleges have more compensation for the college athletes compared to all the other ones, all three. Even though Division III colleges cannot reward college athletes with much financial assistance as Division I schools can. It does not mean that Division III schools do not give out financial aid. In fact, according to the NCAA off their website, Division III colleges reward 80% of student athletes with some form of academic grant or need-based scholarship. And Division II colleges provide 62% of their student athletes with some sort of athletic aid. Finally, at Division I colleges, 59% of the student athletes receive some type of financial aid. This is off of the NCAA website. Division I and II schools provide more than $3 billion in athletic scholarships annually to more than 150,000 student athletes. Now when we look at the graduation rates here, from 2002 to 2019, we see that there is a 17% increase in this, 15% increase in 17 years. That is great. That means that these kids, student athletes, are not relying on going pro as much as they did in 2002 with a 74% rate with falling back on their education. Now, 89% feel that an education is a bigger deal than trying to decide to go pro. Athletes should be going to college to receive an education first and foremost. Division I athletes get their meals, room and board, and tuition paid for. And they're also rewarded with going out of school debt-free. I wish I could go to debt-free. A former college athlete named Cody McDavis played Division I basketball at the University of Northern Colorado. McDavis states, most college athletes do not go to play sports professionally, so they will be relying on their education to earn a living, so the focus should be on schooling rather than sports. Now, when we look at the estimated share of NCAA athletes that will go pro, we have baseball at 8.6, hockey at 6.8, and we also have football at 1.6. If you look at that from baseball to football, there is a 7% difference in those two going pro. So Now, there is still a misconception that most schools are generating more money than they spend on college athletes. This data shows once again that the truth is just the opposite, writes Kathleen McNeil, the NCAA Chief Financial Officer, in a statement. The overwhelming majority of colleges and universities in the NCAA across all three divisions subside part or all of their athletics. The reason they invest in is that sports provide educational value to student athletes while enhancing overall campus life and building lifelong connections with alumni and other supporters. This is also on the NCAA website. Now when we look at the revenue chart and think back to when they're going pro, baseball is at 8.6 going pro, but they only make $1 million. So if we have to cut sports, will we cut baseball and below? So football, men's basketball, hockey, and women's basketball would be like the only top 4 sports that could play. So if we cut baseball, that means will there no more be the MLB or what? Now we look at here where the money goes. There is scholarships, guarantees, coaches, assistant coaches, sports camps, etc. All of this stuff is where this money goes to. There's no money left over to pay these college athletes. And then when you look at these two things, you have the NCAA revenue, okay? Their TV and marketing rights make the most money, as you can see with 81% is the blue. But if you look here at where the revenue is distribution is $503 million. That means that all of that money is distribution throughout this with basketball fund, conference grant, academic enhancement fund, etc. That is where the money's going. There's no money left over to pay these college athletes. In the article that UW Green Bay wrote looks at how that they are a Division I school and they have to cut scholarships due to the fact that they can't afford to give them out. So they have to cut their swim and dive team and their ski team for next year because they can't afford to pay for scholarships. They wouldn't be able to pay for anyone then for schooling. Also, for bribing schools, bigger schools will be able to bribe these kids to go there, like Madison or Michigan, Duke, North Carolina, have revenue that can get these bigger schools. That means these smaller schools like Colorado, San Diego State, that are Division I schools, won't be able to. They might have to cut all their sports and then they have no sports left. In conclusion, the bottom line is that paying college students a salary for playing a sport that they enjoy would transform a game from a hobby into a job. First and foremost, these college athletes are attending college to receive an education, not to receive compensation for playing a sport that they enjoy. If a college student gets a scholarship from any division school, they're receiving a payment for choosing to play on their sports team. There is no need for colleges to add to that payment for providing student athletes with a salary. Finally, Division I colleges that receive more revenue can give future college athletes the more incentive to attend their school, which means possibly cutting other sports just so they can pay the football or the basketball players. That's it. While support for paying college athletes have been on the rise, the NCAA hasn't given any inclination to budge at this issue. Athletes will continue to fill its marks either in the pathway to the pros or simply by exercising their passions. But paying college athletes to perform on a sports team must be a benefit that college athletes receive. Thank you for watching.